Okay, good afternoon. It's a good week for us here at the Bears because we're going to do a game week, a mock game week this week. So we're going through the process of that right now. So today is a in-season Wednesday. Then we'll do the in-season Thursday and the in-season Friday, and then Saturday. Then obviously the game from there. So today we're going through the first and second down, run defenses, fronts, covers, and then the offense is putting in their offense for first and second down. Tomorrow will be more emphasis on third down, and then Friday we'll do the red zone. Typical to most NFL squads would do it that way. So, the process for us really is getting wired in, and getting focused on, and I told the players this morning about the ability to focus in on the game plan. Motion adjustments, your individual plan, and, we're not diving into, defeating your man in terms of the one-on-one matchups as we would, because, some players are going to play on the other side, some players won't, will, but we'll see where that goes. But we're obviously, that would be a big part of what we do during the course of a game week. So it's good to see. I was in the meetings. The coaches were detailed. It was a really good meeting on offense. I was in there quite a bit, and also on defense. So we just got done with our walkthrough, our pre-practice walkthrough. Guys will take a break for lunch, and then we'll head out there at 1:30 to get a good practice in today. So I'll open it to questions from there.
Now, have you made a decision on how many starters or whether starters will play, and if so?
Yeah, absolutely. So the starters are going to play, up to the half. We're trying to get 25 to 30 plays in there. And again, we always reserve the judgment to pull when we think is necessary, but that's what we're trying to do with those guys. There will be selected players that have experience that will be out before that, but that's our plan to do that for this game. So guys are excited about doing that, and we're getting ready to do that. So
is Justin going to be one of those guys or no?
What's that?
One of those selected players? Is Justin going
Yeah, we're going to try to work him up through the half. Yeah, try to work him up through the half, and then, like I said, we reserve the right to pull when needed, but that's our plan right now.
Do you know how the Browns are going to handle it, and does that matter to you whether they play their ones or twos?
It does, and I'll let Kevin speak to that. But and again, him and I visited, but we'll see what they do. But yeah, we're excited to get that matchup with those guys.
With the offense in that part of the equation, what do you hope can be accomplished in that first half Saturday, just to give you a little bit of momentum and confidence going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of things. It's establishing your identity, establishing your style of play. How the effort we give, the execution we give, situational football. Albeit third down. If we get a 2-minute drive, how we operate in the gold zone. All those things that come into play that are good football. Again, we want to play a good operation, clean operation, and we want to be aggressive in our style and aggressive in our approach. So that's what we'll be looking for.
Now, you've talked about how you're going to let Alan Williams put his own fingerprints on the defense.
Yeah.
Through training camp, have you noticed anything where you say, oh, wow, this is really Alan putting his personality, putting his own ideas into it?
Yeah, and that's been that way all the way through. Since we started way back in January, it's been Alan. Alan's been in the room. He's been leading the defense, and he's doing a really good job with it. And he certainly has put his fingerprints on it, maybe changing, the way we call things, maybe to simplify or to make them better or make them fit for what he wants, how he wants to do it. And I welcome that. He's the leader of the defense, and he's taken that role on really well.
Anything interesting scheme related beyond just like how he's doing things?
I would say that not really, but certainly some details, some subtle changes that I think are going to be really good.
Understanding the importance of developing Justin, when you were hired, what drew you to Andrew Janocko, and kind of what have you observed of him so far since you got him in?
Yeah, Andrew Janocko is a great technique coach. I mean, he's really good. If you watch the quarterbacks that he's coached in the past, certainly the last one, he's really sound technically, and does a really good job with that. And that's what brought me to him. And then really, Andrew was appealing to me because he coached so many positions. He's coached the O-line, tight ends, quarterbacks, receivers. So he's coached everything. At some point during his career. So that's what really brings a different level of expertise when you're looking at the overall picture, because he's had the jobs and knows what that means to each position.
How's he clicked with Justin and the rest of those quarterbacks?
Very well, very well. That room's been great. You know, it's been really good. They've clicked in there. We have a good time in there. I'm usually in there with those guys, and it's a great learning environment. It's an open forum where we can ask questions and talk it through, and it's been good that way.
Matt, simulating game week and then having your starters play through that first half, especially Justin, what are you hoping to see from the offense that you haven't already?
Yeah, I would just say, I'll just reiterate just the style of what we're looking for, the way we finish plays, you know, the way we run the ball, the way we operate, you know, in terms of first and second down, and also third down. We have to improve there from last game. And then 2-minute, you know, hopefully we'll get a 2-minute drive in there. We'll be able to operate that because we've certainly worked on it a lot. So we want to be able to see that, hopefully.
Are you expecting Roquan Smith to play?
Yep. He's like I said, he's ramping up like you guys were talking about. But, you know, now he's going to be going into the periods and ramping up that way and getting himself ready to go.
Do you think to really simulate a true game week, Matt, you maybe need to put out an injury report? Would that help?
That would help you guys, for sure, but not quite yet.
Speaking of injuries, Tavon Young hasn't
Yeah.
practiced in quite a while.
Right.
Can you shed any light on that? And beyond that, how difficult does it become to evaluate him as a possibility for the roster when he's barely been?
Yeah, he's had a lower leg injury, and he's been working, you know, a lot with the trainers, and we're just trying to get him back as soon as we can. That's all I can really say. You know, he's been in the pool a lot. He's been working himself through that. We're just getting him on dry land, right? You know, as of last week. So we're just trying to get him back as soon as we can, and he's working hard to do that.
What are some of the challenges going to be as a new coach to now have to make those cuts from going from 80 down to 53?
Yeah, that's just working with the personnel, working with, you know, Ryan and Ian, and we've been doing that. We had a big coordinators meeting with those guys yesterday to talk about the roster and the cut downs and where we see guys fitting with our football team, offense, defense, kicking. And that was a good meeting yesterday. So it's a challenge. You know, you're always certain guys are battling spots, and you're always looking at guys. How can they help us throughout the course of the season? You know, so that's always a big challenge, and it is this year too.
You guys have gotten some good results defensively through the first 2 preseason games. Obviously, you have to find a way to put that into proper context. How do you interpret the results you've gotten defensively?
Yeah, I think you're right when you say that you have to put it in context. You know, the ones are out there playing, you know, maybe 10 snaps or, you know, 12 snaps or whatever it was, and it's a small sample size like we've been saying. So it's hard, but more importantly, it's what they're doing on the practice field. You'll be able to tell more by what they're doing on the practice field for me. And then this right here is going to be a good test for us. You know, those guys will play a little bit longer together, a whole half or up to that or close to it, but that'll be a good barometer for where we are.
Even the guys who were playing, though, you know, the 2s and 3s, does it tell you anything about just kind of the standard that you asked for when camp began and now what it...
Yeah, it's getting better. It's getting better. We saw a big jump from the first game, you know, with the effort and, you know, the intensity. We saw a big jump from the first to the second, and we want a bigger jump this time. So, but in order for us to see that in the game, we got to see it in practice. You know, it just doesn't show up. We got to make sure that we're coaching it. Whatever you get what you emphasize. You know, so whatever we're emphasizing, we got to see that in practice, and then we'll carry it over to the game.
When you were in Indy, you inherited a lot of players that, especially on defense, and made it work. What goes into kind of the retrofitting or reinventing guys? And is there anyone you can point to here, a Gibson, a Jalen Johnson, somebody who's really taken to it that you've kind of made a little bit of a different player, but you feel like will work in your defense, even though he wasn't with you to begin with?
Yeah, those are always you know, things that you look at. You know, you're talking about different pieces to a puzzle when you're going from a 3-4 to a 4-3. And a lot of times that's converting those, you know, outside backers, you know, back to defensive ends like Robert. And Robert's unique because he's already done that. You know, he's been an outside backer before, and he's been a 4-3 in before. So that's not too big of a stretch for him. But it's really about the buy-in. You know, it's about the buy-in and, you know, them committing, you know, to themselves first that they're going to do it the way the standard and be the standard, because the standard's very hard for a lot of guys to adjust to. And I think our guys are adjusting well to it. And you can see that evidence on the practice field. But it's not always easy to buy into that right away because it takes time. Guys have to learn what we're asking for, what the standards are, and then eventually they become the standard.
What's the key to getting to convincing them?
Feedback. you got to give feedback. It's immediate feedback. You never walk by a mistake, and it's always a conversation that you have, player to coach, coach to player, with respect, and showing them the way that the standard's supposed to be, and then they become that standard.
With David Montgomery, is he going to play Saturday, and you haven't seen him on the field in the first 2 preseason games? Is that more of a precaution, or I know there was a little bit of an injury?
Yeah. So David, we're going to see how he goes this week, and then we'll go from there. We'll see where he is. If he's working and feels good, then we'll reassess later in the week. But we feel good about where he is right now.
With a running back in general, are you cognizant of the miles, he has on, in the miles you might not want to put on him in the preseason, or does it matter?
I think you're always mindful of that when you have guys that carry the ball, for sure. And we will be mindful of that as well. And I think that you always got to be understanding of the hits, that one particular guy's taken or 2 guys, and be smart by that.
And we've all seen kind of how the nickel corner role has become more important in the NFL. In this defense specifically, what makes it different or especially integral to what you're trying to do?
Yeah, it's just a hot spot for us. It's a guy that does a lot of different things. He plays a variation of coverages. We pressure him a lot. You go all the way back to Rondé Barber. Those guys, and he's the guy that really made it for our system, made it that way. And we've had some good ones over the course of some years, but it is a hot spot. It's between the strong side passing strength, hash and numbers player, covering the slot receiver, and doing, like I said, a lot of different things. So that guy's a very important guy for us.